298. The country is also a major global exporter of maize, barley and rapeseed. In 2020/21, it accounted for 12% of global trade in maize and barley and for 14% of world rapeseed exports. Its trade share is even greater in the sunflower oil sector, with the country accounting for about 50% of world exports in 2020/2021. 298, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, further to causing the loss of lives and increasing humanitarian needs. The likely disruptions caused by the Russo-Ukrainian war to Ukraine's grain and oilseed sectors, combined with potential food and fertilizer export difficulties encountered by the Russian Federation as a result of economic sanctions, could jeopardize the food security of many countries, especially those that are highly dependent on Ukraine and the Russian Federation for their food and fertilizer imports. 299. Several of these countries fall into the least developed country, LDC, group, while many others belong to the group of low-income food deficit countries, LIFDCs. 300. 301. For example, Eritrea sourced 47% of its wheat imports in 2021 from Ukraine. The other 53% all came from the Russian Federation. Overall, more than 30 nations depend on Ukraine and the Russian Federation for over 30% of their wheat import needs, with many of them located in North Africa and in Western and Central Asia. 298. Transport. HRCS2 unit. HRCS2 multiple unit. Rail transport is heavily utilized in Ukraine. Many roads and bridges were destroyed, and international maritime travel was blocked by the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. 287. Before that it was mainly through the port of Odessa, from where ferries sailed regularly to Istanbul, Varna and Haifa. The largest ferry company operating these routes was Yuka Ferry. 302. There are over 1,600 kilometers, 1,000 mi, of navigable waterways on 7 rivers, mostly on the Danube, Dnieper and Pripyat. All Ukraine's rivers freeze over in winter, limiting navigation. 303. Rail transport in Ukraine connects all major urban areas, port facilities and industrial centers with neighboring countries. The heaviest concentration of railway track is the Donbas region. 304. Although rail freight transport fell in the 1990s, Ukraine is still one of the world's highest rail users. 305. Ukraine International Airlines is the flag carrier and the largest airline. 306. With its head office in Kyiv. 307, and its main hub at Kyiv's Boryspil International Airport. It operated domestic and international passenger flights and cargo services to Europe, the Middle East, the United States. 271, Canada. 308, and Asia. Energy. Electricity production by source. Ukraine energy in Ukraine is mainly from gas and coal, followed by nuclear then oil. 220. The coal industry has been disrupted by conflict. 309. Most gas and oil is imported, but since 2015 energy policy has prioritized diversifying energy supply. 310. About half of electricity generation is nuclear and a quarter coal. 220. The largest nuclear power plant in Europe, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, is located in Ukraine. Fossil fuel subsidies were $2.2 billion in 2019. 311. Until the 2010s, all of Ukraine's nuclear fuel came from Russia, but now most does not. 312. Although gas transit is declining, over 40 billion cubic meters, BCM of Russian gas flowed through Ukraine in 2021, 313, which was about a third of Russian exports to other European countries. 314. Some energy infrastructure was destroyed in the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. 315. 316. On the 16th of March, 2022, European Network of Transmission System Operators for Electricity said Ukraine's electricity grid and Moldova's electricity grid were successfully synchronized with the synchronous grid of continental Europe, on a trial basis, allowing the countries to decouple their power systems from Russia, previously part of the integrated power system that also includes Belarus. 317. 318. Information technology. The internet in the country is robust because it is diverse. 319. Key officials may use Starlink as backup. 319. The IT industry contributed almost 5% to Ukraine's GDP in 2021. 320, and in 2022 continued both inside and outside the country. 321. Demographics. Composition of Ukraine by ethnicity: Ukrainians 77.8%, Russians 17.3%, Romanians and Moldovans 0.8%, Belarusians 0.6%, Crimean Tatars 0.5%, Bulgarians 0.4%, Hungarians 0.3%, Poles 0.3%, others 1.7%. Source: Ethnic composition of the population of Ukraine, 2001 census. Before the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine, the country had over 41 million people, and was the 8th most populous country in Europe. It is a heavily urbanized country, and its industrial regions in the east and southeast are the most densely populated. About 67% of its total population lives in urban areas. 322. At that time Ukraine had a population density of 69.5 inhabitants per square kilometer, 180 per square mile, and the overall life expectancy in the country at birth was 73 years, 68 years for males and 77.8 years for females. 323. Following the dissolution of the Soviet Union, Ukraine's population hit a peak of roughly 52 million in 1993. However, due to its death rate exceeding its birth rate, mass emigration, poor living conditions, and low-quality health care, 324. 325. The total population decreased by 6.6 million, or 12.8% from the same year to 2014. According to the 2001 census, ethnic Ukrainians made up roughly 78% of the population, while Russians were the largest minority, at some 17.3% of the population. Small minority populations included Belarusians, 0.6%, Moldovans, 0.5%, Crimean Tatars, 0.5%, Bulgarians, 0.4%, Hungarians, 0.3%, Romanians, 0.3%, Poles, 0.3%, Jews, 0.3%, Armenians, 0.2%, Greeks, 0.2%, and Tatars, 0.2%. 2. It was also estimated that there were about 40,000 Koreans in Ukraine, who lived mostly in the south of the country, belonging to the historical Koryo-Saram group. 326. 327. Outside the former Soviet Union, the largest source of incoming immigrants in Ukraine's post-independence period was from 4 Asian countries, namely China, India, Pakistan and Afghanistan. 328. In the late 2010s, 1.4 million Ukrainians were internally displaced due to the war in Donbas. 329, and in early 2022 over 4.1 million fled the country in the aftermath of the Russian invasion. 330. Language. According to the constitution, the state language of Ukraine is Ukrainian. 331. Russian is widely spoken, especially in eastern and southern Ukraine. 331. Most native Ukrainian speakers know Russian as a second language. 331. Russian was the de facto dominant language of the Soviet Union, but Ukrainian also held official status. 332. And in the schools of the Ukrainian SSR, learning Ukrainian was mandatory. 331. Linguistic map of Ukraine showing most common native language by city, town or village. Council. According to 2001 census effective in August 2012, a new law on regional languages entitled "Any local language spoken by at least a 10% minority be declared official within that area." 333. Russian was within weeks of being declared as regional language in several southern and eastern oblasts, provinces, and cities. 334. Russian could then be used in the administrative office work and documents of those places. 335. 336. On the 23rd of February, 2014, following the Revolution of Dignity, the Ukrainian parliament voted to repeal the law on regional languages, making Ukrainian the sole state language at all levels. However, the repeal was not signed by acting President Turchinov or by President Poroshenko. 337, 338, 339. In February 2019, the law allowing for official use of regional languages was found unconstitutional. 340. According to the Council of Europe, THIS Act fails to achieve fair protection of the linguistic rights of minorities. 341. Ukrainian is the primary language used in the vast majority of Ukraine. See linguistic map of Ukraine above. 67% of Ukrainians speak Ukrainian as their primary language, while 30% speak Russian as their primary language. 342. In eastern and southern Ukraine, Russian is the primary language in some cities, while Ukrainian is used in rural areas. Hungarian is spoken in the Zakarpattia Oblast. 343. For a large part of the Soviet era, the number of Ukrainian speakers declined from generation to generation, and by the mid-1980s, the usage of the Ukrainian language in public life had decreased significantly. 344. Following independence, the government of Ukraine began restoring the use of the Ukrainian language in schools and government through a policy of Ukrainization. 345. 346. Today, most foreign films and TV programs, including Russian ones, are subtitled or dubbed in Ukrainian. 347. Ukraine's 2017 education law bars primary education in public schools in grade 5 and up in any language but Ukrainian. 348. 349. The Union reported that a ban on the use of cultural products, namely movies, books, songs, etc., in the Russian language in the public has been introduced in Lviv Oblast in September 2018. 350. Diaspora. The Ukrainian diaspora comprises Ukrainians and their descendants who live outside Ukraine around the world, especially those who maintain some kind of connection, even if ephemeral, to the land of their ancestors and maintain their feeling of Ukrainian national identity within their own local community. The Ukrainian diaspora is found throughout numerous regions worldwide, including other post-Soviet states as well as in other countries such as Poland. 351. The United States. 352. Canada, Israel and Brazil. 353. Religion. Ukraine has the world's second largest Eastern Orthodox population, after Russia. 355. 356. A 2021 survey conducted by the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology, KIS, found that 82% of Ukrainians declared themselves to be religious, while 7% were atheists, and a further 11% found it difficult to answer the question. 357. The level of religiosity in Ukraine was reported to be the highest in western Ukraine, 91%, and the lowest in the Donbas, 57%, and eastern Ukraine, 56%. 358. The Saint Sophia Cathedral in Kyiv, UNESCO World Heritage Site. 354, is one of the main Christian cathedrals in Ukraine. In 2019, 82% of Ukrainians were Christians, out of which 72.7% declared themselves to be Orthodox, 8.8% Greek Rite Catholics, 2.3% Protestants and 0.9% Latin Rite Catholics. Other Christians comprised 2.3%. Judaism, Islam, and Hinduism were the religions of 0.2% of the population each. According to the KIS study, roughly 58.3% of the Ukrainian Orthodox population were members of the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, and 25.4% were members of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, Moscow Patriarchate. 359. According to a 2018 survey by the Razumkov Center, 9.4% of Ukrainians were Byzantine Rite Catholics and 0.8% were Latin Rite Catholics. 360. Protestants are a growing community in Ukraine, who made up 1.9% of the population in 2016. 360. But rose to 2.2% of the population in 2018. Health. Ukraine's healthcare system is state-subsidized and freely available to all Ukrainian citizens and registered residents. However, it is not compulsory to be treated in a state-run hospital, as a number of private medical complexes do exist nationwide. 361. The public sector employs most healthcare professionals, with those working for private medical centers typically also retaining their state employment, as they are mandated to provide care at public health facilities on a regular basis. 362. The Municipal Children's Hospital in Kremenchuk, Poltava Oblast. All of Ukraine's medical service providers and hospitals are subordinate to the Ministry of Healthcare, which provides oversight and scrutiny of general medical practice, as well as being responsible for the day-to-day administration of the healthcare system. Despite this, standards of hygiene and patient care have fallen. 363. Ukraine faces a number of major public health issues and is considered to be in a demographic crisis because of its high death rate and low birth rate. The Ukrainian birth rate is 11 births /1,000 population, and the death rate is 16.3 deaths /1,000 population. A factor contributing to the high death rate is a high mortality rate among working age males from preventable causes such as alcohol poisoning and smoking. 364. In addition, obesity, systemic high blood pressure and the HIV endemic are all major challenges facing the Ukrainian healthcare system. Active reformation of Ukraine's healthcare system was initiated right after the appointment of Ulana Supran as a head of the Ministry of Healthcare. 365. Assisted by Deputy Pavlo Kovtoniuk, Supran first Changed the distribution of finances in healthcare. 366. Funds must follow the patient. General practitioners will provide basic care for patients. The patient will have the right to choose one.